Hey Vital Man, it's great to be with you today, and I want to start a new conversation around relationships. So maybe you're single and you're looking, maybe you're single and you're not looking, maybe you're newly married, been married for a while. Some of you might be happily married, some of you not so happily married. You might even be single again. I want to talk about healthy romantic relationships and how do we get there. So I first want to talk about just the culture that we live in, the climate. Most relationships start off with, we'll call it the winky phase. They start off very physical. And with the physical connection comes an emotional response. After the emotions begin, which by the way, they say the emotional phase is about 6 to 18 months total. But all of Hollywood and all of pop culture music is written about that 6 to 18 month window. And the truth is, it doesn't last. Some call it the psychological phase or the psycho phase. I remember meeting with a couple, and me and Jonna were talking to them about, why are you getting married? They're so excited, and they're like, oh, I love you, I love you, oh, I love you more. And that cycle started happening right in front of us. I'm like, so what's your plan when you get married? He's like, well, I don't really have a job, but I just love her. I'm like, you don't have a job? He's like, I can show you the world. I'm like, boy, you can't even show her Uber. Like, you can't even buy her an Uber to go to McDonald's to buy anything. This is not going to work out. I don't think this is a great plan for the two of you. Then comes after the winky phase, emotional phase, then comes the social phase, where you get to meet the friends and the family. And let's just be honest, usually when it starts that way and now you're finally introducing the friends and family, it doesn't go well. Meaning, if they don't like to spend time with your friends now, they're not going to like to spend times with your friends later. If they don't like spending time with your family now, they will not be spending time with your family later. At which the social world becomes really challenging. After the social comes the interpersonal, where you really get to know who they are, what they believe, what they're all about, fill in the blank. It gets a little crazy. And this is where couples start saying, well, I'm not really in love anymore. Because the emotional phase has died. It's been dead for a long time. They've realized we have very little common interests. And this relationship is so broken. Maybe I should have listened to my friends and family before we made this a long-term thing. Or here's another one. Sometimes one person kind of stays in that emotional phase longer than the other one, and they're like, why don't you feel the way that I do? I have to go to work. But the interpersonal phase is when you really get to know who they are. And last is the spiritual. But because there's been so much dysfunction and brokenness that has happened to this point, now they're trying to come to God, hoping that God can fix the broken thing that they have called a relationship. So that's the backwards way. That's the way of our culture. It's the winky face going to emotional, then comes the social, then comes the interpersonal, and then comes the spiritual. Now, in Isaiah it says, my thoughts are nothing like your thoughts, says the Lord, and my ways could be far beyond anything you could imagine. For just as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts higher than your thoughts. So, our culture, I believe, has done the whole God plan upside down. So I want to lay out the basics of the God plan, and then next week I want to talk a little bit more about it. What if you actually started spiritual? What if you found yourself whole in God and didn't just go to God when things started becoming broken and falling apart? In the midst of the spiritual comes the interpersonal. You get involved into a small group or serving on a team, and you get connected and you get to know a lot of different people. You recognize what are the things that you like, what is the character traits that you don't like, and as you're looking for someone. And then comes the social, like you spent time together, you know who people are, your friends, you got to spend some time, you got to know who they really are, you met friends, you met family, and then you're like, I think this might actually be a good thing. You go on some dates, and then the emotions come. But it's healthy, because the winky face, it's not present yet. I know that's so countercultural. I know people are like, does that even work? Don't you have to test drive the car? If you want to objectify other people to the mechanics of a vehicle, maybe. But I don't think that's God's way. So, then you have the emotional phase. This is a great place to get engaged. And you get married. And then comes the healthy version of winky face. So then what do you do if you're single? If you're single, stop trying to find the right person. And by the way, you won't find a lot about finding the right person in the Bible. However, you'll find a lot about being the right person. Why don't you focus on being the right person and finding yourself whole in God, and let God bring the right person at the right time? The last thing I want to leave you with is, maybe you're married. What do you do if that's not how you built your relationship to date? Start spiritual. Go to God. Build your life. Find your wholeness. Find your freedom, your forgiveness in God. And if your spouse will let you, go pray with your spouse. It doesn't mean it has to be every day, but go pray with them. If they won't pray with you, that's fine. Go pray on their behalf. Go to God on their behalf and watch how God goes to them on your behalf. Just start spiritual. And by the way, if you have emotional wounds, distrust, fill in the blank, you can't find emotional healing until you find spiritual healing. It always begins with God. Get around some great other healthy marriages. Get in one of the small groups. Get involved in your church. From there, spend time with healthy relationships and friendships that are for you and for your marriage, not just for you and not for your marriage. They're not a friend if they're not for the thing that your greatest commitment and God covenant lies with. And in the social, act in love and emotions will follow. And when you do those things, healthy intimacy will come. Have a great day.